How do you define faith? I think many people see faith as believing that God will work things out like we want. And like trusting that God will fix our problems or heal our pain or open doors we're hoping will be opened. And I don't want to dismiss this entirely because I do believe that faith plays a role in our circumstances. And so these things matter, they're important. But that's not really what faith is about. If faith were only about getting what we are wanting or hoping for, then what would that say about everything that doesn't work out? And let's be honest, things often don't. You see, faith isn't about controlling outcomes. Its purpose is not to change our circumstances, but to change us. Faith, it draws us closer to God. It shapes us into the image of Jesus, and it builds things in us like wisdom and strength and peace and endurance. James McConkie, a theologian from the early 1900s, he put it this way. He said, faith is dependence on God. I love that. And then he goes on, he says, and this God dependence, it only begins when self-dependence ends. And in self-dependence, it only comes to its end, catch this, when sorrows and suffering and affliction and broken plans and hopes, they bring us to a place of self-helplessness and defeat. Now, I realize that's not a feel-good message, but I think it's the truth that we need to hear. I know I need to hear it. Faith isn't built in comfort. It grows in surrender. I mean, have you ever faced a moment when everything you relied on, your plans and your strength, or maybe your abilities, they just collapsed? That's where dependence on God begins. And until we come to the end of ourselves, I don't think we can ever truly learn to depend on Him. I don't know about you, but my default is self-reliance. And so when I'm faced with a challenge or an obstacle, I'm going to do everything in my power to overcome it or to solve it. Even in speaking about learning to depend more on God, my first thought was, okay, what can I do to make that happen? I mean, do you hear how ridiculous that sounds? I'm going to teach myself to depend more on God and less on myself. I think that's where the words of another theologian, J.B. Stoney, are really insightful. He says, I believe the Lord allows many things to happen on purpose to make us feel our need of Him. Because the more you find Him in your sorrows or your wants, the more you're going to be attached to Him and drawn away from this place where the sorrows are and drawn to Him in the place where He is. And this is essentially what Colossians 3:2 reminds us of when Paul says, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. I mean, so often we ask God to remove our struggles. I know I do. But what if? What if He is using those struggles to draw us deeper into Him? I've said this before, but it's so foundational to the faith, I'm going to say it again. God is not a means to an end. He is the end. His presence is life. It's better than anything that this world offers, and it's what matters most. It's essentially what Jesus said in John 17:3, right? He says, and this is eternal life. This is real life, right? And then he goes on to say that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you've sent. So what that means is even when our struggles don't find resolution that we hope for, they still can work for our good. Because let's be real, not every problem gets solved. The diagnosis doesn't always change. The loss isn't always restored. The pain of grief is real. But faith looks beyond the temporary to what's eternal. And when we see life through the lens of God's kingdom, we understand that what we're experiencing right now is not our home. It's a vapor. It's a shadow of what is to come. Our struggles, painful as they are, cannot compare to the glory that awaits us, to what Jesus has in store for us. Faith isn't about hoping for better circumstances. It's about becoming a different kind of person, one who looks and thinks and walks like Jesus no matter what comes. And so as we draw deeper into his presence, I feel like we begin to experience a joy greater than circumstances, a peace that surpasses understanding, and a life more real than anything that this world can offer. Faith, it's not about getting what we want. It's about getting more of God and finding all that we need in him. And when we do that, we discover the life that we were made for.